Alright, pretty straightforward video this week. I decided to add some more rice to my food stores, and the way I like to do that is to buy a 50-pound bag of it from Costco. It's 50 pounds of rice. It's about 15 bucks. And you can't beat that. You can't get that price anywhere better that I've seen, at least in this quantity. So, some people might store a big quantity of something like this in a 5-gallon bucket with oxygen absorbers. And I've done that, and the failure rate on those Mylar bags and the oxygen absorbers is low, but it's not zero for me. So I just plain don't like doing it that way. Plus, if I break it up into something smaller like quart mason jars, I can kind of unseal a little bit at a time, and I don't have to expose the whole batch to air if I only need a little bit. So this whole bag is going to make its way into many quart mason jars. I've done this in the past, although it's been a couple of years. I don't remember exactly how many jars it's going to take, but it's probably going to be around 20 or so. But with any grain type foods that I store, there's always a risk of insect eggs being in them, them little weevils or beetles or whatever those things are called. Normally you'd find that in flours and things like that, but I don't take any chances. So even with rice, my first step is to transfer all of it into the food grade buckets, seal them tight, and then put them in the freezer for 3 days. If there's any kind of larva or eggs or anything, it's going to kill them, and I'm never going to have to worry about it. I know that they couldn't cause that much damage if something hatched inside of a mason jar, but I'd still rather my entire batch of rice not be ruined. So that's first step. So I'm going to pour all this into these buckets. It'll probably take about 1.5 buckets for this whole bag, and then I'm going to freeze it. Well, I was right that it needed 2 buckets, but it sure filled more than 1.5 of them. Both of these buckets are well over 3/4 of the way full. So it's gonna be about 6 days before I can jar all these up, because I have to freeze them. That's what we're gonna do. That is like a glove right there. I had to remove one of the shelves in my freezer, and this thing slipped right in there. Unfortunately, I don't have space in a deep freezer right now to put all these, so I'd love to have been able to do them all at once, but this is just going to be the simplest for me. So this is where it's going to sit for about 3 days, and then the other one will go in. So we'll pick up this video in about a week when I start jarring them up. Alright, so it's been 6 days. I froze both buckets of rice for about 3 days apiece, and now it's time to distribute it into jars and seal them up. This is more or less a tedious process of filling a whole lot of jars and then running the FoodSaver sealer on it. So I'll probably skip around a little bit or do some fast forwarding or something just to get through this. Alright, that's the first bucket of rice. Looks like I'm going to need another box of jars here to finish this up. So I'm just going to skip ahead in the video to when we're ready to seal. Alright, here we are. It's a little over 33 quart jars of rice ready to be sealed. Basically what I'm going to do is use the FoodSaver with the jar attachment. Attaches to the machine. I seal every single one of these with this thing. This is a really tedious process because you have to wait about, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds between each one while the machine does its thing. So I'm definitely going to fast forward the video through this part. Between each cycle, the machine needs about 15 or 20 seconds of time before it'll start again. And it gives me just about enough time to move the sealer over to the next jar and to put a ring on the previous jar. After each seal, I have to break the vacuum by pulling the hose out, otherwise it would be pretty much impossible to remove the jar attachment from the jar. So every single time I have to pull that out. Alright, here we got all 32 jars filled, sealed, rings on them, and the only step left is to label them. And I always use my handy little Epson label maker, and while I was sealing these, I hit that button over and over again to print out a whole pile of these little labels. And as always, I put the contents of the jar and the date that I sealed it. That's pretty much it. One last tedious process of peeling the little backings off all these things and sticking them on the jars, and then they're going into the pantry. So not rocket science, but there you have it. Just a final thought. One of these quart jars holds about 4 cups of rice. You know, give or take, because I leave a little bit of a headspace there, but just about 4 cups. So 33 of these jars holds about 128 cups of rice. So what that means is, with just what I'm looking at here, I could eat a good serving of rice every single day for 4 months if I had to. Obviously, I don't want to eat only rice, but you can see how this is, or why this is such a staple. It's compact and so easy to store, and you can get a lot of meal out of one jar. And because I don't intend to ever eat rice every single day, this right here would feasibly last an awfully long time. And I assure you, this is not the only rice that I have stored. So I probably won't stock up any more rice for a little while, but I do go through it slowly but surely throughout normal rice usage. I don't buy other rice just for day-to-day use. I use this rice, so I go through it, and I guess I got about halfway through my last stash when I decided to buy a whole new 50-pound bag and start over again. But it's always better to end up with more than you started with, I say. So that's it. Let me know if you have any thoughts. And I'll see you next time.